This is 911.
I just went to our neighbor's house. The kid's, he's on the bed. He's all bloody.
There's a kid on the bed all bloody?
There's blood all over the bed. There's a gun.
There's 2 children?
Yes, ma'am. And their mom is in our driveway laying on the ground. Oh, my God. What the?
Shepherdsville, Kentucky, a small, quiet town just south of Louisville where violent crime is rare. But in the fall of 2023, trouble was quietly building behind one family's doors. Tiffanie Lucas, 32, was raising her 2 sons, 6-year-old Jaden, 9-year-old Morris. Friends had begun noticing troubling changes in her behavior. On the morning of November the 8th, 2023, that fragile balance finally collapsed.
She conscious? She conscious? Ma'am, what's your name? Huh?
Tiffanie.
I can't hear you.
Tiffanie.
Tiffany?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tiffany, I'm gonna change these handcuffs out, okay? And then I'm gonna roll you over and I'm gonna sit you up, all right? Now I'm gonna pick your hands up so you can take these off. Do not struggle, do you understand me? Okay, now, I want you to listen to me. I'm gonna take this arm. You're gonna roll this direction, okay? You're gonna sit up at the same time. You understand? 1, 2, 3. Take this leg, fold it in, make that foot touch your knee. No, to the side, on the ground. Now, we're gonna roll again this way and I'm gonna assist you up on your feet, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Have you taken anything? Have you been drinking? Then why can't you stand up? Just don't feel like it, huh?
I said I don't feel right.
Don't feel right? Okay. I guess we'll put her in my car and when EMS gets done in there, they can come on and check her out.
Officers help her to her feet, switch the restraints, and guide her toward a patrol car. She can barely stand, and her speech is weak and fading. Inside the house, paramedics are desperately working to save her 2 boys, both suffering from severe, life-threatening injuries.
How many's in here?
Just one kid here, one's gonna go in here.
Are they both breathing still?
One, they're pumping on him. The other one was still breathing. They're both shot in the head.
Oh, Lord.
I think he's shot in the head.
How old are they?
Shoulder, like 16.
Oh, they're that small.
Babies, yeah, babies.
Oh, my God.
I haven't moved anything. There's 4 shell casings on the bed. 2 on the bed, 2 on the floor. So she shot at least 4 times.
By midday, Tiffanie Lucas is placed into a cruiser and taken to the sheriff's office. The evidence against her is already mounting. Yet when she begins to speak, her words come out scattered, leaving investigators with an even more unsettling picture of what may have happened.
Shot myself in my ear.
You shot yourself in the ear?
Mm-hmm.
What's here? I don't see anything. There's nothing there. Okay. We're gonna take her back to the interview room. I gotta go in and turn it on, so we want her wait till I get there, and that way we can view her and just keep an eye on her, okay?
People aren't right.
Who ain't right?
People are not right. They're preying on children. It's just not right.
Within hours, she is seated in an interrogation room. Detectives begin pressing for answers about what happened inside the house. But as she starts to speak, her account only deepens the mystery. And what she says is far more difficult to understand than investigators expected.
I feel like I've been manipulated. The game systems and everything, been manipulating my children, manipulating my mind.
Who is?
All them game systems and, just everything.
The games, you said?
Yeah, like PlayStations, all the games the kids play.
Yeah.
It manipulates their minds and then it gets your mind.
Investigators later testified that Tiffany's outbursts matched the story she had been repeating from the beginning, claiming she was manipulated through Facebook, the internet, into committing the act. Despite the bizarre explanation, detectives repeatedly redirected the conversation back to the central issue, what she had done to her own children.
How old are your boys?
Jaden's and Mario.
Well, I'm going to talk to you today about what happened earlier, okay? But Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? I mean, where are you from, or where you grew up, or anything like that?
I know I look crazy, but I'm not.
Huh?
If I know I look crazy, but I'm not crazy.
I don't think you look crazy. I'm just trying to, if I'm going to talk to someone, I'd rather know who they are. I can tell you a little bit about me.
I love my children.
You tell me a little bit about you. Okay.
I love my children. I love my boys so much.
Oh, I know.
I wouldn't hurt them.
She continues to insist that she is a loving mother. Yet almost in the same breath, she shifts the blame to mysterious outside forces, claiming they manipulated her into doing what she did. The contradiction only deepens investigators' confusion as they try to understand her actions.
I feel like someone tried to manipulate me through my phone, manipulate me through my house, doing stuff to me.
What are they doing to you?
Manipulating my mind. Parker Borders. His name is Parker Borders.
What about him?
He lives in Bardstown, and I'm pretty sure he's been manipulating my mind for like 3 years.
Really?
Through my phone, putting up things in my house, like real evil, dark, weird stuff, like trying to...
Like trying to get you to do things?
Yeah, like alter my mind, like completely, like flip me, like I'm a woman of God. I don't do...
Yeah.
You don't hurt your children, you protect them, and I feel like I have to protect my children.
Right.
Like, I love my kids.
I know you do.
I would never do something like this unless someone manipulated me.
To Lucas, a man named Parker Borders is the one she believes invaded her mind and twisted her thoughts, leaving her unable to protect her children. Investigators, however, see something very different. A handgun was found on the bed beside her son's, with 6 shell casings scattered across the room. A neighbor's doorbell camera captured the sound of 4 gunshots, and witnesses heard her screaming moments later. Every piece of evidence points back to her. Yet in the interview room, Lucas insists the gun wasn't hers, claiming it belonged to someone else.
So that gun that was, I guess, in the house, in the bedroom or whatever, that's his gun?
Yes.
Why'd he give it to you?
I don't know.
Do you remember hurting your sons today? I mean, you remember it, but I'm not saying it's you.
It's not me.
It's not you.
It's
like
not.
you said.
I know it's not me. I would never hurt my children.
Right.
Her responses make little sense. Detectives press her again, but Lucas continues to insist she's innocent. Investigators quietly document each contradiction as it unfolds. To them, the evidence already tells a clear story. But in Lucas's mind, reality keeps shifting. Always someone else to blame. Always some unseen force manipulating what happened.
Manipulating.
Manipulating is the best word.
Through the phones. Wi-Fi, all of that.
And once he manipulated you and pushed you into doing this, do you remember firing a weapon at them today? I mean, you remember that, right? No? You know how many times you shot? That you pulled the trigger today? No? Let me ask you this. After you hurt your sons with the gun, did you think they had passed away, or do you think they was just wounded and would be okay? Because they're both okay. Neither one of them's passed away. But what did you think? Did you think you had killed them?
I just don't know. I have no words.
Now you went next door to knock on the neighbor's door to get help, right? Okay. When you went over there, what were you going over there for? Just to ask for help?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm guessing since you were going over there to ask for help, you had saw that your sons had been injured, right? And were bleeding. You saw that, right? I mean, I know it's a hard thing to think about. And I know it wasn't you. I know that's not you. I mean, you're being manipulated, as you said. I understand that. But physically, you're the one who pulled the trigger. Even though that's not you. And somebody else is pushing you to do that or manipulating you to do that, you pulled the trigger on the weapon. Is that correct? It's not correct? How did your sons get shot then?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I have no words.
How long after your boys got hurt? How long did you immediately go next door to ask for help, or did you wait for a while, or what? But do you think it was an accident today, or did you mean to shoot?
I just can't talk.
Hey, look at me for a second, please. How many times did you shoot each one of them? Multiple times? One time, two times, what?
I have no words.
Hmm?
I have no words.
You don't know how many times you shot them? So I guess did you just keep pulling the trigger until it was empty, or what?
No. I just don't have anything to say right now.
Did anybody spend the night with you and your kids last night? Huh? Yes or no? Hey, I know you can hear me. Yes or no?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I feel like he's been living in the house with me. I don't know. It's been so weird.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get him out of there. I don't know what is going on.
Detectives press her for a clear answer, but Lucas remains evasive. Her responses drift between partial admissions and paranoid claims. Again and again, she circles back to the same name, Parker Borders, insisting he somehow influenced everything that happened. For investigators, the name is as puzzling as her story. They don't know whether Parker Borders is a real person or simply part of her unraveling mind. The name does appear locally in a 2020 Bardstown obituary, but nothing in police reports, court records, or media coverage connects him to the case. With no proof of his involvement, detectives shift the conversation, pressing her to acknowledge what happened to her children.
Are you concerned about how your sons are doing?
Yes. Can't stop thinking about it. Are they okay?
They're both okay.
I just can't stop thinking about it. I don't even I'm so scared.
I know you say you're a good mom, and I believe you. And you say you love them, and I believe you there, too. I really, really do. But if you love them so much, what made you shoot them? You know? It's hard for me to understand. I wish I could hear you answer. Why? Do you think Parker manipulated you to the point that he had you shoot your kids?
I know ultimately the mom that I am and the person that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know God wouldn't do that to me, but I know people will do that. The system, and I just know what I know. That's all.
It soon becomes clear that Tiffanie Lucas is not mentally well, something she seems aware of herself. During questioning, she even asks to be evaluated, acknowledging that something isn't right.
I need a psych evaluation immediately.
Have you ever spoken to psychiatrist, psychologist before?
Yes.
Do you think they would help you figure out
Yes.
why you shot him?
I did.
Who did it then?
I don't have nothing else to say. Our father, Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Her words drift into prayer. For several minutes, the room falls silent except for her quiet murmuring. Then, just as suddenly, she shifts back, her attention turning away from God and back to her 2 boys.
Where are my kids?
I can't hear you.
Where are my children?
I can't hear you.
Where are my children at?
Okay. They are at the hospital.
What is their, what state are they in?
Both of them are still alive. They're in critical condition.
The interview ends without a clear confession. Only 2 children fighting for their lives and a mother unable or unwilling to explain why she pulled the trigger. Detectives escort Tiffanie Lucas from the interrogation room into custody. Later that day, both boys die at the hospital. Even after her conviction and 2 life sentences, the tragedy continues to haunt the community.